Well, good job, Mercedes, and good job, George. It was Hamilton who topped the sessions yesterday, and then George and George who topped the sessions today. So Mercedes and George, outstanding. Great job, great qualifying under pressure. There's a lot we need to talk about, including, unfortunately, another crash from Franco Colapinto. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're going to debrief what happened in qualifying. So I guess the big story is George, and really what stood out for me was when he came on the radio and said, guys, I want to be last over the line here. I want to take advantage of any clean track, a grippy track, a good tire preparation, and I just want to come across the line last and take advantage of the best track conditions. So that's George taking race management into his hands, which is great. Like, it's a good sign. We definitely support that on this channel. That's something drivers need to do more of. Like Hamilton, particularly the guys at Ferrari, McLaren, all of the drivers, I think, should not really be trusting their teams and taking it into their own hands. Remember in Spa, George said, no, I want to try and do this one stop. Again, it's that same quality shining through. So good job by George Russell, and a good job by the top three, generally speaking anyway. So we had Carlos in P2. We spoke about Carlos on our live stream and said, if the Ferrari's good, Carlos needs to out-qualify Leclerc to kind of cement himself and get a bit of respect back. Because always in the street circuits, it's Charles and the Ferrari works well, but Carlos kind of, always takes a back seat there. So it was good to see him come through and compete for pole. He can definitely compete for the win from there tomorrow. And Pierre Gasly, obviously, what an outstanding performance by him to get P3 in the end in Q3. Now, just before we get into the qualifying sessions itself, I do just want to quickly recap FP3. So let's have a look at that now. So hopefully you can see the results on your screen in front of you. Like we said, we had George Russell topping the session this morning from Mercedes. And it was interesting to see Piastri getting on top of Norris. I've had a look at their telemetry, and it was really leading on to the back straight where Piastri was getting the upper hand against Norris. So in the final sector, as you can see, that's the 35.7 showing for Oscar in purple. Just want to show you the speed traps as well, if I can go next image. Piastri and Norris with the upper hand. So yeah, the McLaren definitely has some good straight line speed. And I just wanted to quickly touch on those things before we get into qualifying to set the context. And Ferrari still lacking straight line speed, as we saw yesterday as well. This is where they were yesterday in terms of straight line speed. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys about a particular secret that I think none of the drivers were using on this particular track, and it's going to feed me into Franco's crash when we get onto it as well. So you see this curb here. This is the last corner or second last corner. Well, I mean, the last corner is the flat one before the pit straight. But this is essentially the last corner because you just drive to the pit straight after this. But whenever there's a curb here that's not up against the wall, there's an opportunity for you to avoid this by sticking your right front just on the inside of that curb and just railing the curb. I feel like none of the drivers tried this, and this would definitely have been worth a lot of lap time. The reasons being, when you turn into the left-hander, so the corner before this one, you can carry more speed in anticipation that you're not going to be here on the left-hand side of this curb. Anticipation that you've got more room and you're going to be here. Your right front is going to rail the inside of this curb and go around. So that's extra lap time. Trust me on that, guys. You can take that to the bank. And I saw no one do that, which was disappointing to see. Not even anyone try it. So if we go to the next picture, you can see Lewis gets his right front on there, kind of like this is on the curb. So he's got his right front like on top of the crest of the curb. And that's not good, because when you're going for traction and you're limited by traction, that is just going to unsettle the car as you're turning as well. You don't want that. So if you could dig your right front in there and just have it brush up against this Pirelli sign, pretty much just pretend the curb is not there, basically, and just have your right front go up against this Pirelli sign and go through, you would find a lot of lap time, and you'd also have a nice straight run through the left-hander, which is where Franco crashed as well. I believe the cars can definitely do it. This is Lewis in turn 8. He's got the right front across and more towards the right-hand side of the turn 8 curb. So I don't see an issue with this curb is directly underneath the plank of the car. So I don't see an issue with it. I'm surprised none of the drivers did this, to be honest, or tried this. Even Max, because this is a sim move. 100% this is a sim move and there's lap time here. So they didn't even try it. And every time we cut to the camera shot that's like facing forward from here, the cars are bumping over this curb and it's costing you heaps of traction. So I thought I'd call that out as being a secret to this track that none of the drivers picked up on, none of the drivers tried, and none of the drivers could execute either. So that's that. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was that we saw the Ferrari guys having the brake temperatures on their dash and on their steering wheel. I think that was great. That was super critical. That's the sort of information that we said yesterday should be on Franco's dash. He had no information on his dash, not even the delta. So we said also in the live stream, brake temperatures will feed into tire temperatures. And obviously you need brake temperature anyway for the brakes, but they're also going to help with regards to the tire temperature as well. So it was good to see Ferrari have their brake temperatures on the dash as well. And it was just interesting to also see Max doing 2 preparation laps in qualifying as well. So I think he got the best out of the car during those qualifying sessions and just spending more time to prepare the car, not just doing an out lap and going for it, to invest another lap in preparing the car, the tires, the engine, the battery, the brakes, and just get everything exactly where he wants it. I thought that was an important play as well. So I wanted to just, before we dive into quali, just brush you up on what I saw there in the second last corner, the space and the curb and how you could have got better traction, what Ferrari did well in terms of managing and monitoring the brake temperatures that wasn't on Franco's steering wheel, and the way Max prepared the car as well. I just wanted to set the scene heading into the qualifying analysis. So in Q1, the drivers we had kicked out were Sergio Perez, P16, another Q1. I thought he would do reasonably well here. I mean, he was strong in Baku. It's a very similar driving style, like progressive braking, progressive throttle, low grip, high speed, long straights, like pretty much the same driving style. So I don't know what's going on with Checo and why he's a second off Max here. But he's out. Alonso out. I mean, the Aston's got no straight line speed. We saw that yesterday. Albon is out. So I guess a good job by Franco to out-qualify Alex. Not sure what issues. I mean, obviously Alex had that fuel issue happening as well in practice. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Bottas out when Guan Yu Zhou made it in. Very interesting as well. And Lance Stroll, P20. Telemetry comparison for this one is going to be Sergio Perez versus Max Verstappen. Where is that time being lost? Let's take a look at it now. Alrighty, hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So we've got Perez 34.1 and Verstappen 33.3, as near as makes no difference. So nearly 0.8. So Perez just didn't have it. If we look at the track dominance, a lot of blue, that's where Max is finding all the lap time. So on the exits down this straight, pretty much all the exits. So you can see out of turn 1, for example, Max probably getting on throttle earlier, harder, faster, carrying that down the subsequent straight. Similarly, out of this tight left-hander, probably getting on throttle earlier, harder, faster, finding lap time down here, and then the same. So I suspect that it's got to do with the exits. Have a look at all the straights Max is finding time. So yeah, really interesting to see. This is unusual for Checo Perez. Normally he's pretty good at the exits. That's exactly what we discussed before about Baku, right? So let's take a look. Which corner should we take a look at? I think probably this would be the most representative one. Turn 1 out of turn 1. So let's have a look and see if what we're suspecting is true. So Verstappen in blue, Perez in white. So the first thing we notice is Verstappen's got a higher minimum speed. So it's 113 versus 113, which is here where the blue is. And then as we go across to Checo's 103. So 10 Ks more of minimum speed, which is worth a lot of downforce. When Checo's down here at 103, you haven't got the downforce. So Max can get on throttle more aggressively, therefore. And that's what you're seeing here. You see this blue here where it just, Max just goes bang, and he's the first to full throttle. So the blue throttle, quicker above and beyond the white throttle. That's also happening here, but to a smaller extent. So yeah, it's just out of here, but it's also just the lift through that right-hander as well. So Max has just got more confidence. It's a shallower lift from Max, and he's just harder and faster on the power. And then you see the delta running away here as well. So I suspect that's pretty much the theme. Checo just not confident with the right foot. not getting the car straight and square, ready for acceleration. So look, I'm not sure what else to say other than that. It's a confidence thing. It's an exit thing. It's a on throttle lift thing. He's just not happy with the balance and the power application that he can demand of the rear wheels while he's turning at the same time. So moving on to Q2, the guys that got kicked out were Esteban Ocon. His teammate actually made it into Q3 and got P4. So it's always not a good sign when you're out and your teammate is through. That's always tough to deal with. So Ocon kicked out P11, still a good result, but when your teammate's P4, all of a sudden it doesn't look as good. Similarly, Magnussen, P12 when Hulkenberg made it through. Guan Yu Zhou, that's a pretty good effort, P13, given where Bottas was in P19. Colapinto obviously kicked out. He's got the best speed trap there, by the way, 356. That's in purple. Liam Lawson was the other guy kicked out when Tsunoda made it through into Q3 with P8. So let's have a look at, let's do a telemetry analysis for Q2. I'm going to pick the difference between Ocon and Gasly. So let's bring that up now. So hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. We've got Ocon's lap time here. This is the 33.2, and then Gasly's lap time directly below it. This is the 32.8. So there's 0.4 separating them, which, it's not heaps, but it's enough in this case. And we've got Gasly in white. I see a big difference here just in speed, which is odd. I see also a big difference here in the back straight where some strange stuff is going on with the speed. So just before we investigate track dominance and delta and everything, I just want to see what is going on here. So if okay, so he's always been faster on the exit. Okay, fine. It just looks like, yeah, the blue here, it just looks like Ocon, maybe that's a battery issue or something weird. Where is that exactly? Coming out of turn, I think it's potentially a battery issue. It's very unusual to see them not move in parallel. So these two lines not, like, see how they eventually meet there? It's something weird happening with Ocon's exit. They're at full throttle. So that's something definitely strange, which I've picked up on the telemetry. There's also this anomaly over here as well. This is going down the back straight. Give me a sec. Let me just have a look at this properly. Where you can see the white, which is Gasly, on top of Ocon, but then flat lines and goes again. So something weird happening with these guys' battery. See the delta just come back. I'm not sure what that is. Like, yeah, and this is weird track dominance as well to see, like, white, which is Gasly getting a better exit, but then all of a sudden Ocon takes over, and then all of a sudden Gasly, and then Ocon. That's weird. That's weird. I've never seen something like that before. Normally the speed that you carry out of the corner, like we saw with Max and Checo, would be consistent all the way down the straight as well. So let's take a look. So whenever the delta goes up, that's going to be in Gasly's favor. And the biggest kind of up that I can see is here, coming through this tight left-hander and through the next tight left-hander as well. So let's have a quick look at those and see what's going on. So Gasly in white, higher minimum speed here. Again, we talk about minimum speeds a lot on this channel. It keeps downforce active, keeps the aerodynamics working, allows you to get on throttle harder, earlier, faster, and all those things. So if we just zoom in on the throttle, you see that the white, which is Pierre, is able to just get on throttle. Like, you see the difference in minimum speeds here. That means that he can get on throttle harder. So it's just, then the question is, well, how do you keep the minimum speeds higher? So it's just timing the braking, timing the turn in. If you're on the right line and going with the right trajectory, you're sweet. You don't need to make too many adjustments. You can see that Pierre's actually broken earlier here. The brake is in white. That's Pierre's brake, and Esteban's is in blue. So just by braking earlier allows for you to just ensure that you're on the right path and then nail the throttle when you're happy with everything settled. So by braking later here with Esteban, he's probably found a little bit of time on entry, but then it's like, if you've messed it up, it delays your throttle. And running down a long straight like what we have this one here, and then the back straight, well, that's obviously not good. So good job by Pierre there. And that's where he was finding most of the lap time. Again, I'm not going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, but that's one example of where Pierre was finding time against Esteban. Just braking earlier, having the car more settled, more predictable, but crucially getting on throttle earlier as well was the most important thing there between these two drivers. So now we need to talk about Franco's crash and what happened there. Well, I think he got through the right-hander not too badly, but just for some reason just turned in early into the left-hander. Maybe a little bit of anxiousness, a little bit of anxiety trying to get in, make sure that he doesn't run wide and crash on the exit. He's recognized that he's turned in a bit early, opened the steering up a little bit, and then gone again. So he's found the surplus of front grip, as in more front grip than what he expected and a better turn in than what he expected. I don't know why. It was quite a strange accident. There's not much else to say. Like it wasn't even an accident that was like a high quality accident. Like it was just, he turned in so early and there's no lap time in that anyway. You just got to go around the corner as opposed to going through the wall, if that makes sense. I know that's a silly analogy, but it wasn't like, he was trying to brake late and find extra time and it was unfortunate or whatever. This was just, he just drove into the wall pretty much because he found more front grip than he expected, I guess. So, well, what does that mean? Well, I guess the anticipation of how much grip wasn't there, but you're getting feedback throughout the whole lap. So that's the final corner. So I wonder how he judged the turn in into turn 1, for example, or turn 2 or turn 4, or the 90-degree left-hander before leading onto the back straight. I wonder how he got on in all of those corners, anticipating the front end grip. Was he struggling to find the turn in there as well? Or was it just that final corner where he was struggling to anticipate the front grip? I'm not sure, but that's the root cause of the issue. And that's what happened in that crash. Just going back to my little secret there, again, if you just rail that right hand, get the right front inside that right hand curb and get a bit closer to that wall, it makes your life easier through that left hander as well. That's the other advantage. You don't need to second guess or go in too early or worry you're going to run out of room. The corner just opens up and life just opens up on the exit as well. So that's something that he could have tried. I would have been telling him to try that. That's what your Thursday track walk is for. In this case, Wednesday track walk. That's what that's for, to have a look and see what the profile of that curb is. And that's what practice is for, to try and feel these things out as well. So disappointing. That's a lot of crashes from Franco in his short career. Like we all want him to do well, but crash in Brazil qualifying, crash in Brazil race, crash in Baku practice, crash in Vegas qualifying. Like it's not good. So I've got a video out on whether or not he should go to Red Bull. Obviously, I think that, there's two sides, and this is assuming he gets a Red Bull offer or whatever, those rumors are true. But I basically said, look, life's too short. Take your chances, yes, but come prepared, mate. Bring some specialist technical driver coaches and mentors with you on the journey. Don't just go in there and, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You're going to be next to Max Verstappen. So, but after these sort of performances, I'm not even sure Red Bull would put him in the car. But then you've got Checo Perez out in P16. So even with the crash, Franco's out qualified Checo. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What does this mean for Franco? Does this mean he's terrible? Does this mean he needs help? Does this mean he's under pressure? Does this mean he should or shouldn't get the drive for next year? And there's a lot to unpack there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So the final Q3, I'll bring it up on the screen in front of you now. Let's take a look at it. This is how they ended up at the end of the day's play. So George P1 with the 32.3, nearly a tenth quicker than Carlos Sainz. Fastest in Sector 1, fastest in Sector 2. This is strange. We saw this yesterday. The Ferrari quickest in the final sector, despite having the top speed that we know that Ferrari has, which is not great. Let's have a look at the top speeds. Actually, if I just close that for a second, you should see it here. So 349 for Carlos Sainz. Okay. It's actually quite healthy. So I'm not sure what changes they've made then since what's Leclerc's 346. So I think Ferrari have probably pulled some wing out of this car and still maintain their good traction out of the final corner as well. So a good final sector helped by a good straight line speed. Again, you've got a good straight line speed here from Pierre Gasly. So those are the sort of things that can help you down this straight. And it's no surprise that, outside the top 10, you've got 344. That's the slowest top speed you see in front of you, who's P9. So McLaren also had good top speeds coming into it, but it doesn't have seemed to be there when the cards are being shown. So just really interesting to see like the changes in top speed over the weekend and who was going where. You know, these orange guys were fastest in FP3, I think, this morning with the good top speeds. Ferrari were not up there, and now all of a sudden they're up there. You can see Colapinto 356 with the quickest top speed. Also interesting to note, George has scrubbed a set of mediums in preparation for the race. So this is quality, guys. This is, you know, he's just taken that shiny layer off the medium compound tire in anticipation that he's going to be using that tire in the race. So yeah, good job by George Russell. And then just looking at the gaps, obviously a good job by Gasly, 3/10 off pole. And Leclerc, you know, where was he? So we also need to touch on Hamilton, like what happened there. We saw him lock up into turn 12 or 13, I think it was. And then he came on the radio saying, I've lost the rear on my fastest lap as well. So 2 mistakes from Hamilton, and I guess under pressure from George, because every time Lewis did a lap, bang, George was there as well. Lewis went quicker, bang, George went a little bit quicker. So George is applying pressure to Lewis, and that's asking Lewis to, like, you know, that's forcing him to overplay in a way. So it was really interesting to see that as well. Let's probably, for a telemetry analysis, let's have a look at Carlos Sainz versus Charles Leclerc. All right, hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So we've got to select these 2 guys' laps here. We've got the red and the white. Sainz in red, who was quicker, down the back straight, down the main straight, down the first DRS zone. So interesting to see there as well. Really quick down the back straight, like always a few kilometers. I'm just looking at the speed down the back straight. Always a few kilometers ahead of Charles, even here down this straight, the first DRS zone, the first short straight, always 2, 3, 4 kilometers ahead of Charles Leclerc. So we need to see, is that exit or is that like difference in downforce? So who's getting on throttle better, harder, earlier? Let's take a look at turn 1, 2, 3, similar to what we did with the Red Bulls, and see what's going on with minimum speeds and so on. So they're pretty equal through the first part. That's the increasing radius turn 1. When they go for the throttle, they both go for it in a very similar way. But here's the interesting part. The delta just starts to creep up just there. He's already lost a 1/10. So I guess it's this strong red increase in throttle that we're looking at there. And Carlos has just done a better job on the exit of turn 1, just getting his foot down. So a good understanding of when the downforce is active, right? So if you look at the throttle, if I just go back for a sec and you look at the throttle, it comes on slowly initially here, but then bang, it kicks in. So we want to see at what speed that happens, and it's here. So when Carlos reaches 143, he knows, all right, downforce is active, bang, I'm going to go for it. And he finds a 1/10 in that throttle squirt as well. So really interesting throttle introduction. And again, here you can see that Carlos drives into turn 2 further, a shallower lift than Charles. Carlos only goes back to 44, whereas Charles goes back to 38. So a shallower lift, so he comes in with more throttle, a shallower lift, and then a harder and faster introduction as well. And that's why you see the red speed here. So a lot of great throttle work from Carlos through turns 1, 2, and 3. So amazing. That's where he's found most of the time. He's already 2.5 tenths up just in that section alone. So beautiful piece of driving. You can see the revs here. He's got a big increase in revs. So that's also helping just pull the car through that high-speed right-hander as well. So great job by Carlos. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail, but that's one example of where and how he might have been finding the lap time against Charles Leclerc. Looking ahead to tomorrow's race, I think it's going to be tricky for George to convert this into a win. What are some of the things that he needs to do? Well, good tyre management. He's already scrubbed a set of mediums. Good start, good defense into turn 1. Let's keep an eye out for that. Does he shoot across to the inside and protect and defend his territory into turn 1? Can Carlos get up the inside? But probably the key thing for me is that Carlos was 349 down that back straight and George was 343. So the Ferrari's got a bit more top end there than George at least. So that'll be interesting to see on lap 1 or 2 because DRS gets activated pretty quickly these days. They don't have to wait another lap before DRS. So can Carlos start attacking straight away on the opening lap? I think George is going to be under attack, and I think we're going to see what sort of defense he has and how well he can hold off Carlos Sainz. So that's the key part. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And how can Lewis get through? I mean, we know he's got lap time. It'd be good to see him like put in a good drive. And I think if he does a good drive, he could potentially find his way inside the top 5 as well. So it'd be good to see him have a crack and just start overtaking, go with an aggressive strategy, go with an aggressive turn 1 and see what happens. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment, leave me a question below, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to interacting with you there. See you after the race. Cheers.